Few short moments ago, making that formal announcement to the nation, informing of the passing of Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, and of course making a couple of announcements. 7 days of national mourning, flags flying at half-mast in the country and around the world in our foreign missions, and announcing also a state funeral with all attendant honours. Plus the delegation that will be going right away to India to bring back the body of the late Raila Odinga to the country. For what happens next, we continue here with our coverage. We've got our reporters who are around the country and, of course, in various parts of Nairobi to just continue to cover the reactions to this big news in the country today. Our coverage here continues. And we are also joined here in studio by Senator Onyonka, who joins us. Thank you very much for being with us today on such a day. I just want to hear your initial reactions to this news and your reflections on the man.
Thank you. I think, Yvonne, many of us, Linus, first of all, I'm happy to have you here, and both of you. Many of us are going to mourn Raila in very many different ways. There's those people who have spent insurmountable amounts of time and effort to engage, to participate and try and understand what he stood for. I think for me, I came in by the time when I was a little bit more mature and understood the politics I was playing. Literally, at some point, because at that time I was coming from Kisii County, the politics was pro-establishment. I mean, we were a community that loved being in government. We didn't care about fighting for all these quote-unquote hypothetical matters like justice, fairness, equity. So, at a personal level, I, at the same time, would like everybody else, send my condolences. But I have certain events which in my life and my experience as a politician that will always stick with me. And I'll just be very brief. One is 2007, I have won elections. I've come to Nairobi. I'm at Pentagon House, and the Pentagon team, all of them are there. Yeah. And a decision is going to be made that afternoon. No, it started in the morning. In fact, Najib Balala was there, Martha Karua, the team. And the decision which was going to be made is that we must go for civil war. And for the first time in my life, I saw Raila stand up and say, ladies and gentlemen, you people must understand something. Making this country collapse can take us most probably 1 week. Fixing it back might take 100 years. So let's look at the other options. That surprised me, because everybody was saying, no, it's okay. After all, we don't have the guns, but we can get our boys from Kibera. Then Raila asked them, when these boys from Kibera are killed, I'm the one to go and bury them. And I'm not going to bury them anymore because too many of them have died. Then the second issue that crossed my mind was when he negotiated the post-election violence agreement with Kibaki. Kofi Annan had come and there was the decision to be made. Is he going to sign an agreement or not? And what many people don't realize is that that agreement was actually signed in secret, because he didn't want Martha Karua and William, who was then, a minister, to be part and parcel of that, because they completely refused. William was refusing pro-ODM, and Martha was refusing pro-DP. So, again, I saw Raila made the decision and say, we will sign the agreement, because I don't think we have the capacity to destroy the country. And the one that shocked me most was him signing an agreement with Uhuru. That was a bit shocking, because we didn't expect him to sign that agreement. And indeed, his explanation and all the issues that came out. For me, those are the three events I remember.
That you remember?
Yes, politically, that is. Right. But at the personal level, Raila was a very warm man, an individual who was simple. If you went to his place in Kogelo, he would welcome you to eat. and he would show you the cows. And when you came to Nairobi, there was nothing unique. He loved eating Kenyan food. He was different. The other issue that I understood from him as a person, he had very deep contacts with his friends, the people he started his politics with. He knew all the friends of Jaramogi. He knew all the friends that he built all along. He knew the friends who were with him and the seven bearded sisters. You remember the issue of bringing in constitutional amendments, the changes, and bringing in the new constitution. He was somebody who was able to identify individuals at their first names, their families. He knew family members were like my case. I lost an uncle who was a professor, and I'd find Raila calling me and say, "Oh, I'm told Professor Tumbu died." I said, "Yes." "Oh, okay, so you'll inform me. I want to come. I'll bury him." He was my friend. He had that personal touch.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the legacy, Linus, that many people have of him, both on a personal front and on the professional front. But no doubt, even from the moments that the senator has mentioned in this country, and I know you discussed this for most of the morning, this is a man who's been pivotal in the country's political evolution, democratic evolution, for well over 4, 5, 6 decades. And so no doubt there's going to be many different reflections from different eras of our evolution as a nation.
Yes, Yvonne, and let me say I've had the luck, I call it luck now, that he's gone, to speak with him on Sunday at exactly 6:32 p.m. in the evening. We spoke for 7 minutes. And one thing that is very constant about, Raila Odinga was he was in touch with events and in touch with what is happening on the ground. In our conversation on Sunday evening, we spoke about a number of things, including broad-based, and he was laughing about the events here and asking me, so what are you people saying about Gidi, amekuja broad-based? And you know, he has a way of laughing. Honestly, from that conversation, I didn't pick distress or illness. He sounded exactly like the normal Raila he has been for a long while. And I've also had the luck of actually seeing him work out in a gym.
Yes.
He's a fitness person. And so just based on that, really, one would not have thought this can happen so suddenly. Yeah. But of course, we'll get to know what really transpired medically to make us reach here. But to what Senator is saying is also very, very true of the person. You know, there is the Raila, the politician, the enigma, like they called him in his book. And then there is a person, a very harmless, different person. Yeah. Soft-hearted and all that, and with a lot of information. What I always enjoyed about chatting up with Raila is his wealth of information on nearly everything.
And I think that's the thing that for many who got to encounter him, you know, on a stage, on a podium, at a rally, you find there's a different persona. I think the first time I interviewed him as well, you know, you expect the big persona on stage, and then you
pushy.
Exactly, and then you meet him in person, you know, even before you begin the interview, and it's a completely, you know, somewhat different person. I suppose, you know, relating to the persona that one has to adopt when they're on a public stage versus now when you meet them one-on-one. And I think those will be the many reflections that different people are going to have. But his relationships, both personal and professional, aren't just here in local politics. He had some wide connections on the African continent, Olusegun Obasanjo, former president, Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, with whom he is, enjoys a very close relationship. Even before, the tweet that he put out today, mourning him, when Raila was in India not too long ago, actually a couple of weeks ago, he did put out a tweet saying, it was good again to reconnect with my friend. So this is a man who's built connections, across the world, and no doubt there will be many people who will have reflections of him in different capacities, Senator.
That's true. If you were to write a book about him, most probably I would recommend somebody to look at Raila's narrative. You see, Raila is a product of this republic, and yet in reality, he was somebody who understood completely the relevance of Pan-Africanism. If you look at Raila's politics, you will realize that he had built friendship with ANC members in South Africa. Yeah. He was actually personally friendly because Mzee Jaramogi was a friend to Nelson Mandela. Raila is somebody who was very close, you remember, to Magufuli.
Magufuli, yeah, the late.
I remember when we traveled once with him to Italy, and we went to a place called, is it Rimini or Bimini? One of the Italian, very popular places. The Italian Prime Minister came and we were just sitting around and having tea and laughing with Raila like they were really somebody who they've known each other for 30, 40 years. If you went to the US, many of the senators, many of the ambassadors knew him. And that is because during the struggle for the African liberation, he was there. When African countries became independent, he was there. As this independence comes, then the challenges begin to appear. You're talking about bad governance, you're talking about reduction in basic rights. Then I think I give him credit single-handedly for having literally put Kibaki under so much pressure, and then eventually for the country to get a new constitution. And many people may not really look at it and analyze it in terms of what was the relevance of it. My honest observation is that Raila was able to make Kenyans understand that the problem is if you take the resources from the center and take it to the periphery, you would then change the economic matrix of our people.
And that's something he had championed.
And that is something he had championed for very many years.
For decades, even before, devolution as we know it now. Just hold your thought for a moment, Senator. We will come back to you. I just want to inform you that the pictures you're seeing on your screen are live from Bondo. That's his hometown. No doubt some reactions there. Sam Gituku will be there and giving us a brief on what's happening there. But first, here in the city of Nairobi, in the Central Business District, Jimmy Mbogo is joining us live now to just get a perspective of the reactions from citizens there. Jimmy?
So we are currently at the middle of the Central Business District here in Nairobi. We have been following a group of young people drawn from different walks of life who have come into the streets trying to express their frustration or trying to mourn with the family of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Majority of them saying that their biggest concern is how will the country political landscape then be shaped. Some of them believing that this is the man who has for the longest time been giving them direction. We have been walking all the way still on Moi Avenue. We've been walking with them all the way from Harambe Avenue and just trying to get their thoughts and their sentiments and their biggest and their reaction since they had this. And mami naomba nizungumze na wewe utuambie jina lako na tunaomba utume rambirambi zako kwa familia, lakini kwa sasa tuambie jina lako na utuambie habari hii ama taarifa hizi ulizipokea vipi?
Mnamo hapa naitwa Roslyn. My name is Roslyn Achengo Mondi. I was shocked by the loss of Baba. Today I was on my way to work. Then I saw on the screen R.I.P. Daddy. I saw on the screen R.I.P. Daddy. As my enigma, I have lost my dad. I have lost my father. I have lost my parents and my political dad. May his soul rest rest in peace.
All right, thank you very much. Tunaomba utuambie jina lako. Tulia. Tunaomba utuambie jina lako na uweze kutuma risala zako za rambirambi.
Haya, kwa majina naitwa Gabriel Onyangolo, aja uyoma kabudhara gengni.
Zungumza kwa Kiswahili ama kwa Kizungu tafadhali.
Lazima ni chantu bana. Jawi! Mitamo imari, tamamba yokuge.
Asante. Now, Yvonne, that has been some of the cases. I want to speak to another young man because majority of the people that we have seen on the streets are majority young people. Again, these scenes look, they sort of mirror what we had seen earlier on.
Yeah, we apologize for the quality of that signal. That tends to happen during live broadcasts, but that's Jimmy Mbogo, who's live at the CBD there with young people to get their reflections of the events that have taken place today. Once again, we're live from Bondo. We'll get back to Jimmy Mbogo in a moment, and also Sam Gituku, who is live in Bondo, to get some more reactions of the same. And now what we've heard from the president is 7 days of national mourning, flags flying at half-mast in the country and at all foreign missions. And then he's also talked about a state funeral and all attendant honours, to quote him directly. Blina's state funeral is of course, a very significant announcement for him to make. We've had quite a few in this country, maybe just to help us understand the importance of this announcement, a state funeral for Raila Amolo Odinga.
This is the highest available honors for individuals and especially state officers when they pass on. We've already had a number of them in Kenya that we can use as illustrations, right from the passing of former president, the second president of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who was buried in February, around the 12th of February in 2020. And then there was the passing of Mwai Kibaki as well, another state funeral. State funeral combines a number of elements. And first of all, in terms of the symbolism, it's just a way for a country and a government and a state to show honor to a particular individual, that we are burying you with full honors. The most visible part of a state funeral is the military ceremony, and then which involves the military in full color being used to ferry the body, move them around, and all that. And then there is the lying in state, which is also part of a state funeral. Lying in state, you remember, that is what happened to former President Mwai Kibaki, yes. Former President Daniel Arap Moi. We also saw it with the former Vice President who died in office, Michael Wamalwa Kijana. He also did a lying in state in Parliament. So we expect to see that also as part of the ceremony, where a day shall be reserved, normally in a public place. In Kenya, we've normally chosen the National Assembly or the Houses of Parliament, where the body, the casket can lay there and allow the public to file past and pay their honors. So it's the highest available form of funeral, and it's offered at the pleasure of the president. And we also know that a day is, depending on what the president also decides, a public holiday can be declared. And we saw that in the case of the last two presidents. So we can see that what President William Ruto has done immediately is to avail those full state ceremonies to the late. It's hard to say that. Actually, we're saying that.
Yeah. I mean, very, very quickly, and we're reflecting on that in the newsroom a little earlier, that, you know, we transit very quickly into speaking about somebody's remains, of somebody that was known, and perhaps there's an element,
and not very easily for purposes of public, not very easily.
Yeah.
And I say this for both media and people in public life, like Senator here.
Yes.
You know, we have this lane also that we interact in. And moments like this are not easy for the media and the newsmakers. We are human too, and we relate to these people at a very personal level sometimes. Senator, you live long. I've known you since
yeah, we were kids.
The by-election,
Yes.
which you lost to Angwenyi, Jimmy Angwenyi.
Yes.
I covered that as a very young reporter.
Yeah.
I don't know why you were late for my interview, but those are many years. I will not ask you to account where you are, but you turned up eventually somewhere in a town called
Was it Masimba?
No. Marani.
Marani. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You are very late, but you arrived anyway.
And this is I think what we're talking about in terms of, you know, his passing. There's many who are surprised. There's many who spoke with him, like you said, Linus, as well. You know, just a few days ago. Were you surprised as well by the news, Senator?
Not really. I mean, Mzee, the reality is that Mzee had changed because of his ability to move around, and I began to saw him much more slower. I also started seeing his sound change a little bit. At some point, in fact, I was worried that he was being overworked. I felt he was moving around too much, and at 80, there are certain things you can do and there are others you cannot do.
Yeah.
But you see, the truth and the reality is that we see Raila as those people who don't die. At the subconscious, many Kenyans are going to empathize and maybe deal with this thing by the end of this week. That's when some of them were like, oh, actually, you mean Raila is not there anymore. Yeah. So it is something that Kenyans are going to deal with at a personal level as we move. Number two, I think these events have a singular purpose to me. You see, Linus, we are now saying how Raila is a great guy. You know, we are saying how he has done wonders. We are saying how he has kept on. And yet, in reality, if you were to take 10 years ago and start listening to the campaigns which were taking place between him, Uhuru, William, and all this, and you listen to the matters, the issues we're raising, and they were very personal, such an event for me makes many of us in public office to begin to really question ourselves. How much can you discredit a fellow competitor? How much are you going to raise about their character? How much are you going to talk about who they are? And it kind of, it's a mirror reflection of how we need to behave and how we handle ourselves. And number two, it gives us an opportunity also, I think, from the way how Kenyans are going to react when Mzee Raila is laid to rest. It is going to have a certain change of mindset, thinking of perspective, directional purposes of, for example, Kenyans and other Kenyans who have always looked at him as the person who gave us direction. Yeah. So finally, for me, I think that in general, and I've said this publicly, especially here at your TV station, in general, Raila's record will eventually still going to be that he was somebody who scored a B and above. Okay. That's how I look at it, that he kept on slogging, he kept on raising this issue, the fights which took place, some people didn't like them. My only sad thinking, Linus, is that how I would have wished that Raila actually won the presidency in the last election. I think it would have done so much for the country in the healing. It would have made Kenyans realize that, yeah, he could have served one term and that's it. Not as a favor, but I think as a reward for his ability to stand up and slog the challenges of our country for all these years.
Indeed. And you talk about the totality of one's legacy. That's a moment of reflection for everyone, not just for the leaders, but personal as well. Stay with me, Senator Richard Onyonka from Kisii County, and also Linus Kaikai. We're live here in studio. But I want to take you to Bondo now, where we've got Sam Gituku with the pictures, the live pictures that you are seeing on your screen. Sam, tell us about the reaction, the immediate reaction now following the president's formal announcement to the country of the passing of Raila Odinga.
Right, Yvonne, it's been the continuing, the emotions that we're witnessing here at the Opoda farm, the residents expressing themselves in the best way that they could. Of course, lots of emotion, lots of all of them speaking at the same time to express whom they knew as the leader of the ODM, but also practically speaking, the leader of this region. So they've been here since as soon as they started hearing of information that the former Prime Minister may have died, they made their way to the Opoda farm. We were able to witness coming all the way to the Opoda farm, which is in Siaya County, witnessing the sadness that you can only imagine, even on the streets of on the roads coming here, everyone expressing themselves, trooping to the roads, whether they are on a motorbike, by themselves walking on the streets, but also using the vehicles. But now getting to the Opoda farm, it has been a beehive of activity, witnessing the people coming in and going out, the security officers coming in, going out, especially as soon as President William Ruto announced the country, proclaiming the death of the former Prime Minister. There has been a bit of activity here with the security officers patrolling the area, just ensuring that everything appears to be normal. But at the same time, you've seen a bit of movement by the residents here. You'll recall that from the 14th of October until 17th of October, which is later this week, there was expected to be the Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference, in which they were expecting the presence of the President and also the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Unfortunately, he was unwell, was receiving treatment in India, so he wasn't going to make it. But we've seen the residents of Siaya having to now take over some of the materials, the merchandise that was communicated event, bringing it all the way here to the Opoda farm to just express themselves. We've spoken to a few of the elders who speak in the local dialect here, and they are saying that they hope now that the president has announced the death of the former prime minister, that the processes leading to his funeral will be peaceful, calling on everyone else to sober up. This is not the time to talk about politics, but also the most important thing is to remember whom the man Raila Odinga was. And of course, looking at the messages that have been coming in, including from the governor of the neighboring county, that is Kisumu County, that is Professor Nyang' Nyong'o, where just to refer to one of the places where he's talking about Raila was never just a politician. He was a movement, a rhythm in our national heartbeat, a voice that thundered in parliament, whispered in prison cells, and sang from the streets of Kibra to the hearts of millions. His was a life poured out fully, completely in service of a better Kenya. And that's the sense of messages that you find witnessing from the young people, the middle-aged, but also the elderly that have been coming to the Opoda farm. The level of emotion here, Yvonne, is just palpable for them to come and express the grief that they feel this afternoon. Yvonne.
Yes, indeed, Sam. And of course, like you talked about, maybe you could continue to tell us a little bit more about what that journey was like, because we know you were in Kisumu. So from Kisumu all the way to Bondo, what did you witness from the residents there? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right, Yvonne, you'll recall that last night you were at the Tomboya Labour College. We were having a conversation about the state of education in Kisumu County and in the country in general. Now, obviously, we are waking up to a day that you'd expect that it's time to make your way back to Nairobi to continue with our work as journalists. But of course, the information started coming in the morning up until the confirmation that we went live on Citizen TV to communicate the passing of the former Prime Minister. And up until that point, it was just about the rumor mill in the city of Kisumu. Some few people that we spoke to, those that are riding bodas, those that are riding their taxis, they were saying that they are hearing some news. They have not yet seen any confirmation. But as soon that confirmation came from Citizen TV and other major media houses, then you saw lots of activity pouring out into the streets of Kisumu. Everyone who owns something that can move, talk about boda or even a car, they made their way into the streets. And you would find a bit of those people that are afraid of what could happen. They were now keeping off the streets. But it was very clear from this sort of activity that we witnessed, the hooting that we witnessed, and of course every other person who cares to remember Raila Odinga getting into the streets carrying a branch, and I'm told, or a twig, I'm told that is a sign to mean that major human being has fallen, especially coming from this region. So we witnessed that. Of course, a lot of sadness, a lot of expression on the streets, people crying out and saying that this is not what they were expecting. Of course, you hear some judges that they have been singing, especially during campaigns. You hear them back, and of course, sort of to remember whom Raila Odinga was. But at the same time, we've been able to witness, like I was telling you, coming all the way from Kisumu, all the way to Siaya, and in particular the Opoda farm that you are at, you see it on the roads, in the faces, and of course, many getting to get to a point of to tear up, obviously understanding how big this loss is, not just to the country Kenya, but most especially for this region where Raila Odinga called home for many decades, Yvonne.
Thank you, Sam, for painting that picture of a community in grief and in mourning over a leader and somebody they perhaps related with in one way or another, even if it is on the public stage. That is Sam Gituku, live from Opoda farm in Bondo in Siaya County, live there. And those continue to be the pictures of those who've gone there to Raila Odinga's home to mourn following the news of his passing earlier this morning. We continue with our coverage. And remember, we have reporters around the country and indeed here in the city as well. And here in studio, just a reminder, we're here with Lina Sky-Kai, we're with Senator Richard Onyonka. We will be joined by a few more guests here in a moment to just continue to get reflections and reactions to this here. And, you know, those condolences continue to come in. We saw earlier from Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, who mourned a person he called a friend. And many of those local tributes, and I think, Linus, like we're talking about just in terms of how we mourn and how we pass messages, there were many, of course, who did so, you know, online, but it continues to be wanting to first get the formal confirmation and then waiting first for the announcement by the president of this matter, and all of those continue to come in. I just want to read one as we continue. This one is from Governor Anyang' Nyong'o. And I just want to read that. He says, "A powerful man has just rested. A lion has returned to the mountain. The storm has stilled, but the thunder of his footsteps will echo for generations." He goes on to say, Raila was never just a politician, he was a movement. A life poured out fully, completely in service of a better Kenya. A man who was imprisoned, vilified, betrayed, but never broken, never silent, never afraid. It's a long statement, so I'm just reading excerpts of it. He goes on to say, and even in the harshest political storms, Raila remained the eye, calm, focused, and unyielding. He ends with, "Fare thee well, Baba, the struggle lives on because you lived. Your rest is earned, your legacy eternal. Even the soil of this nation is proud to cradle you." That is from Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, who calls it a tribute to the enigma, the son of the soil, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. We have some more reactions as we continue. This one is from the chairman of Royal Media Services, Dr. S.K. Macharia, whom, as we know, was a man very close to Raila Odinga, and they shared a deep friendship for many decades. And he says, "Words cannot describe what I feel today. I am utterly devastated. Raila Odinga was not just a brother and a friend. He was part of my life, a man I deeply cared for, and a leader whose attributes always appealed to the depths of my beliefs. My family and I have lost a family member, a great friend, and a confidant." And he also goes on to pay tribute to the life that Raila had, public life, calling him an incredible statesman and a patriot. He says he lived a life of enormous personal sacrifices, from jail to exile and back to jail, and then to the streets where his eyes and body suffered damage. He goes on to say Raila Odinga has paid more than his share of his sacrifice for Kenya. That's Dr. S.K. Macharia, the chairman of Royal Media Services. It goes on. "We owe our new constitution to Raila Odinga. We owe devolution to Raila Odinga. We owe the independence of our judiciary to Raila Odinga. May his spirit continue guiding our unrelenting quest for good, accountable and transparent governance in Kenya." The days ahead in Kenya will never be the same without Raila Odinga. To Mama Ida, Raila's children, and my fellow Kenyans, let us march on in our collective journey and in the same path Raila would always wish us. This is our loss. This is our most grievous loss. Dr. S.K. Macharia, the chairman of Royal Media Services. Those are some of the pictures that you can see from Bunge. You know, the parliamentary activity was suspended today by the Speaker, but it seems there is a moment being paid some tribute.
Yeah, they were to resume at 2 p.m.
At 2 p.m. Let's listen to the Speaker. Yes.
That's what, yeah.
Okay. The Speaker who's about to address Parliament. We have that link
to hold a Thursday morning sitting, adjournment of the House, extension of sitting time, and limitation of debate.
Majority.
The Speaker of the National Assembly there, they have resumed their sittings today. Likely, of course, the topic of discussion will be reflections on Raila Amolo Odinga. As we understand it, the majority and minority leaders will be travelling to India, but I believe the majority leader is up on his feet. Let's listen.
I'm dressed in black, and our ladies provide ribbons for everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I beg to move that following the presidential proclamation issued today, 15th October 2025, regarding the passing on of the Right Honourable Raila Amolo Odinga, EGH, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Orders 33A and C, 31, 1, 97, and 259D, this House resolves to, 1, hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 16th October 2025, commencing at 10 a.m. 2, to adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, 16th October at 10 a.m. 3, to extend its afternoon sitting time tomorrow, Thursday, 16th October 2025 at 2:30 p.m. until midnight. 4, to record its tributes by way of an exceptional motion. And 5, exempt the exceptional motion on the tributes of the House from the resolution of the House of Thursday, 13 February 2025 on limitation of debate on motions and the provisions of Standing Order 97. Honourable Speaker, I beg to move, Honourable Speaker, as you have kindly allow me to take this opportunity to relay my condolences to the family of our former Prime Minister, Mama Ida Odinga, her daughters Rosemary and Winnie, and Raila Jr., and the entire Odinga family. Honourable Speaker, I know we'll have more time tomorrow, and as you indicated, in the interest of time, I don't want to say much at this particular time, but just to say, as you have said, that Raila Odinga has rested. Long live Baba, and we will all remember our Prime Minister as a great Pan-Africanist, the foremost son of Africa and our great nation. We will remember him in many ways, also as a father to our nation and a father to many of us, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, when the news were broken to us early this morning by His Excellency the President, it was a difficult moment, because only a few weeks ago, I spoke to the former Prime Minister when he called to condole with me when I lost my dad. And he was upbeat, but he did indicate to me that he was a little bit under the weather and he will not be able to join us. But, Honourable Speaker, I will live to recall how whenever I spoke to the former Prime Minister, he called me my son. And may his soul rest in eternal peace. I think we will have more tomorrow, Honourable Speaker. Thank you.
Junet, you order, say I beg to move, and Kimani, you have not moved the motion. I beg to move.
Honorable Speaker, I said I beg to move. What I forgot to say is I would now like to ask my brother and friend, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, the leader of minority, to second the motion in agreement.
Junet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion of adjournment. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to condole also with the family of my leader and the entire ODM fraternity and membership and the whole country at large, Mr. Speaker, for the loss that we have encountered today of a great man. But Mr. Speaker, I am still coming to terms with what has happened, so I will request you to allow me to do my condolences tomorrow, God willing. Because, Mr. Speaker, some of us had very, very deep relationship with our leader. And we knew death will come one day, but we didn't expect it now. So I will condole tomorrow in the House when you give us an opportunity. But for those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Of course, being an exceptional motion, ordinarily having moved and seconded, you will have no second bite, but being an exceptional motion, if you arrive in good time, we'll sit up to midnight. I'll give both of you time to speak to the motion tomorrow. Honorable members, for the record, let's read out orders 3, 4. Yes, pardon? I propose a question. Sorry. We are all overawed by grief. Let me propose the question, which is that following the presidential proclamation issued today, 15th October 2025, regarding the passing on of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, AGH, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Orders 33A and C, 31, 97, and 259D, this House resolves to 1. Hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 16 October 2025, commencing 10 a.m. 2. Adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, 16 October 2025 at 10 a.m. 3. Extend its afternoon sitting time tomorrow, Thursday, 16 October 2025 at 2:30 p.m. until midnight. 4. Record its tribute by way of exceptional motion. And 5. Exempt the exceptional motion on the tributes of the House from the resolution of the House of Thursday, 13th February 2025, on the limitation of debate on motions and the provisions of Standing Order 97. Having agreed to what I said, can I put the question? I'll now put the question, honorable members, which is that following the presidential proclamation issued today, 15th October 2025, regarding the passing on of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, AGH, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33A and C, 31, 1, 97, and 259D, this House resolves to 1. Hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 16 October 2025, commencing at 10 a.m. 2. Adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, 16th October 2025 at 10 a.m. 3. Extend its afternoon sitting time tomorrow, Thursday, 16th October 2025 to 2:30 p.m. until midnight. 4. Record its tributes by way of an exceptional motion. And 5. Exempt the exceptional motion on the tributes of the House from the resolution of the House of Thursday, 13th February 2025, on limitation of debate on motions and the provisions of Standing Order 97. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
And that is the Speaker of National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, giving directions on the presidential proclamation that was made today with the announcement of the passing of Raila Amolo Odinga, announcing the adjournment of sittings to tomorrow, that's Thursday, 10 a.m., also extending the sitting time from 2:30 all the way to midnight, and having a record of the tributes that will be made in the House tomorrow by way of exceptional motions, and that will be exempt from the limitations of the House, meaning the members will be able to speak freely with no limitations of time, to give members of the National Assembly a moment to express themselves and give their reflections on Raila Amolo Odinga. So we will wait to see what happens at the National Assembly tomorrow. Also, now we have a statement, a formal statement on the passing of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga from his party, ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement. It reads, "This morning we have received the dreadful news of the passing of our party leader and icon, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in India while undergoing treatment. The party and the entire country is in deep shock following the news. On behalf of the party, I send my condolences to family, friends, party members, and the millions across the world to whom the Right Honorable Odinga was a beacon of hope in a world filled with despair." The statement ends, "While we process this adverse news and await further updates, I urge all party members to observe the tenets of unity and rally together as we reflect on the life and times of our leader, a man who has been a mentor and father to all, hence the moniker Baba. We shall be providing regular updates in conjunction with the family as Baba's funeral rites are planned. May Baba's soul find deserving rest in heaven." That is a statement written and signed by the Secretary General of the ODM party, that's Senator Edwin Sifuna, mourning the passing of the party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. We'll continue to do that a little bit more. Can we go back to Sam Gituku, who is live at Opoda Farm in Bondo? That is the home of Raila Amolo Odinga.
Okay. Eh? Right. Thank you, Yvonne. We're still here at the Opoda Farm, the residence of Raila Odinga here in Bondo in Siaya County. And I want to speak to a few of the young people that have gathered here for a couple of hours now. And they come from the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. We start with Ray here. You've been here. I have seen you, of course, mourning the death of the former Prime Minister. What do you have to say this afternoon?
Actually, comrades, power! Power! Comrades, power! Power! Actually, my heart is full with lugubrity and melancholy to have lost the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He was not only a mentor to me, but also a dad. As an aspiring politician to be, I'm really much pained in my heart to have lost Raila Amolo Odinga. Yeah, and that's why we came here with the students. We came to mourn. Not only to mourn for the country, but we came to mourn for ourselves, because Raila Odinga was not only a future to us, but he was the present to us. Yeah.
And Yvonne, you're also with the president of the student fraternity at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University. Your thoughts, Joel?
Thank you. My name is Joel Odidi. I'm the president of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University, and I'm here with my students. We have received the sad news of the demise of Raila Amolo Odinga, and I want to say that we are heartbroken as students, because this is somebody that we had deep connection to as an institution. And also beyond just that connection, this is somebody who has left behind a legacy that will transcend to different generations to come. We looked at Raila as a political godfather, somebody who directed the whole community, somebody who directed the nation towards prosperity. So his demise is a loss to us as students and as citizens of this country. We join other Kenyans and the family of Raila Odinga, all Kenyans of goodwill, to mourn, and not only to mourn, but to be in togetherness, in spirit with each and every individual who feels that the loss of Raila Odinga is a loss to this country. Yeah.
Mercy is also here. I hear you're the deputy president at the institution. Your thoughts?
Thank you so much, Sam. This is a disheartening thing. Tumepoteza kigogo wetu. Raila alikuwa a hero to this country. That is why we have all this crowd mourning. So we join family, we join the friends in mourning the death of Raila Amolo Odinga. And we are praying that God may comfort the family, may comfort the country and all the friends at large. Thank you so much.
And Joel, we've heard from the president of the country saying that Raila Odinga will be accorded 7-day half-mast flag flying. At the same time, there will be national mourning up until the day the former prime minister is laid to rest. What do you think of that in relation to the human being that he was in Kenya?
Raila Odinga is somebody who fought for the liberation of this country. We can call him the architect of first, second, and third liberation of this country. He fought for the rights of Kenyans, very many Kenyans, both within and even abroad. He fought for those inmates who were held incommunicado during the dictatorship regime that was here before. And so we feel that he should be accorded respect that he deserves as a statesman of this nation. Yeah.
All right, Yvonne, those are just some of the thoughts of the people, the student fraternity that are here that have been expressing yourself. You have something to say?
Oh, no, my name is Owio Hilario Tieno, and I'm a student at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. First of all, this is a very bad day. It's a bad Wednesday that today we walk with demise. We are together with the family. We mourn the death of Raila Amolo Odinga, who was not only a leader in Kenya, but an international leader. He has left a great landmark that can never be filled in everyone's heart. Yeah.
Right, Yvonne, and of course, as we stay here, we continue to receive different messages from different leaders that have led this country, including the former cabinet secretary, Cicely Kariuki, writing and saying that he was a friend to many, a patriot, and may he rest in peace. And of course, the people that are here at the Opoda farm, they continue to express themselves. Of course, lots of people coming in, and like I told you, many people also leaving as they come to terms with the reality of the passing of the former Prime Minister. Back to Yvonne.
Thank you, Sam Gituku in Siaya in Bondo, and speaking with members of university leadership and young people who have their reflections of the same. We continue with our conversation here in Nairobi at our Citizen TV studios, and I want to introduce a man now that is known very well in public life, a former cabinet minister, a former MP, ODM member Franklin Bett. Thank you for joining us here on this day. I just want to get your initial reaction to the news of the passing of Raila Odinga, and as well your reflections on the man, both personal and professional.
Thank you, Yvonne, for inviting me to express my condolences. And first and foremost, I want to say to the family, Ida Odinga and the children, the relatives, the fraternity in Bondo, and the ODM family, and indeed the whole nation. We have all lost a great man. We have all lost a man who was very consistent in his views. He was also persistent in his views, so long as those views were of benefit to the Mwananchi. So that was Raila, a man who stood very firmly. And I remember very vividly when we were doing the Constitution, he was very firm on certain provisions into the Constitutions. And those provisions all the time were meant to serve the interests of the wider Kenyan people.
Mm. You worked closely with him. What is your own just personal reflection of the man, Raila Odinga?
One, I first came in contact with Raila Odinga when he was the Deputy Director, Kenya Bureau of Standards. Yeah. Way back. I was also a public servant. That time I was in the Inspectorate of State Corporations. It was the nature of my duty to be in touch with the various parastatals. One of them, therefore, was Kenya Bureau of Standards. One of those days, the director himself was not in, and so it was now incumbent upon Raila Odinga to respond to the office of the president, personally to come over and meet the Inspector of State Corporations. He was a young man, very energetic, determined, and committed to his duty. He was committed to the standard body, doing the right thing for the country. And he showed a lot of love for quality in terms of what comes into the country and what we produce as a people. That is the first time I came across Raila Odinga. The next other time was not a very exciting one, because that is now when he was deeply in
politics.
In what would I say? He was in a fighting mode or something.
Activism.
Activism, yes, that's the word. He was in activism, and the regime at that time wasn't with him in what he was trying to advocate, trying to fight for, and once or twice he was locked in. And I was just a public servant, and I was wondering what it was. And but it was equal. It was
8 years.
It was what?
8 years.
8 years.
In total. 8
years
in total.
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah, in detention. Yeah.
And but you know, the state was saying they were using some law. And indeed, there was a law that allowed the state to detain an individual or to put away a person for several years.
Absolutely.
But even after he came out, he was still the same man, vibrant, determined to make sure that certain issues are looked into in the interest of the people.
Yeah.
That was his main all the time, interest of the country. That it should not be made to go to an individual, to benefit an individual.
Right.
So one would say it was kind of running away from capitalism into socialism. But it was a commitment on his part that the people of Kenya are treated fairly, democratically, and with love.
And I think that's the part for many people. I mean, Kenya is a predominantly young population. That's the one thing that many people haven't related with, his life as a public servant, because many have interacted with him as a politician.
Correct.
You know, as an MP for many years, in various other positions in government. And that's an interesting reflection, you know, to remember that this is a man who, you know, started out as a, you know, as a civil servant, as a public servant, and then, you know, of course, moving into the life of politics. Thank you for that reflection, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. When we move into his moment in politics, Linus, what are your reflections covering Raila Odinga as a reporter?
Look, Yvonne, Raila Odinga has been a most compelling political story for many decades now. And it was a story before we joined the industry.
Yeah.
And that was the time he was in the struggle for multipartyism and all the attendant risks that were there at the time when we were, by law, a single-party state in Kenya. And like Honorable Franklin has elaborated there, you know, there were times that he was in detention in total, which was about 8 years. He was also in exile. But my own interaction actually started when he resigned from Ford Kenya, the party of his that was led by his father.
Yes.
It was preceded by, I was just a young reporter actually just at the tail end of my internship at KTN when this intense battle for the control of Ford Kenya erupted, and he was locked in a contest with Wamalwa Kijana to succeed Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who had died in January 1994. So it was a contest that then went on for a while, and a contest he lost to Wamalwa Kijana. Wamalwa Kijana indeed became the new Ford Kenya chairman, forcing Raila Odinga to look for the next steps. It took a very unusual step at the time, in the sense that as an elected member of parliament, he actually stepped down, resigned from, wrote a letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and resigned as member of parliament for Langata constituency. What this meant was he has to go seek a fresh mandate from the people of Langata. And that was the first time I met him. And, you know, one of the other things that I remember about that time is the time I met the late George Oduor, who became his very, very close, who was his very close bodyguard,
yes.
and who passed on not too long ago also. Yeah. And we went into Langata, and as a young reporter now covering the exciting campaigns. Very exciting because the race was typically a by-election. And you know, by-elections in this country generate a lot of heat because you have a race between someone trying to come in and you have the government of the day doing everything to score a point also. Yeah. And that time, the candidate for KANU, the ruling party KANU, was called Fred Amayo, a young guy. I think it's not the same age with Raila. And the race was very, very interesting. Interesting in terms of the campaign because the numbers, of course, were overwhelmingly Raila's. And that was the beginning of his leadership of the National Development Party, a party that was at the time not well known. And he gave the party a name. NDP grew from a one-member party, which was between 96 and the next election. And in the next election, which was 1997, Raila Odinga ran for president on the NDP ticket. And what that also meant is in the areas he had influence, like the Nyanza region, he swept quite a number of parliamentary seats on the NDP ticket. And we interacted from then on various political events, major milestones, including the day he was presenting his nomination papers at the county hall next to Parliament. And the next other milestone, Yvonne, which I just want to mention, is the transition of Raila politics from an opposition, pure opposition, to a person that started dealing with the other side and reaching out to the other side of the political divide. And I want to mention the year 2001 and the events of 2002, when now his closeness to the then President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi now brought into place what we started calling cooperation politics. Yeah. But cooperation politics, there is a little bit that should be traced back to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and President Daniel Arap Moi. There was a meeting, and maybe Franklin will help us with some of the recollections. There was a tour of the Tarkwel Gorge in West Pokot, Turkana boundary, where the new power plant was. And Moi, president, and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the official leader of opposition in parliament, met. And I think it was the first time that this was being publicized. And I remember the photos coming out, you know, Moi and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga standing and looking at the dam. And that was the birth of cooperation politics. But the person who really took it to the next level, again, was the son now. Now we talk of the late Raila Odinga, who in 2000, through his relationship with 2001, through his relationship with President Moi, was actually appointed Minister for Energy. Yes. For the first time, President Moi, who had led the country with a single party, that's KANU, and then after winning the election, KANU formed the government, incorporated opposition figures into government. I remember Odinga became Minister for Energy, and Dr. Adu Awiti became Minister for Regional Development. And then there were assistant ministers like Orwa Jode and one more from Nyanza as well. So about 4 members were incorporated into the Moi administration. That grew now to the succession politics of 2002. Remember, after that was President Moi's final term. Yeah. He wasn't eligible to run. And what he did was now to try and create a major coalition out of this relationship with Raila Odinga. And on the 18th of March 2002, there was a major event at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, where Raila Odinga's National Development Party, NDP, was folded and merged with the Kenya African National Union, KANU. I remember being in Kasarani that day, and the yellow and blue flag of NDP came down, and the KANU Jogo. By the way, it was renewed. Even the logo was changed to now reflect a new KANU.
Yeah.
And that way, in 2002, 9 months to the election, I remember KANU was a formidable machine that it was inconceivable to think it can lose the election in 9 months. Because of that coalition, now you had Raila Odinga, but also you have brought in Uhuru Kenyatta, who was then to take care of the regional aspect of Mount Kenya politics. That relationship went on, Yvonne, and until August that year, when now in another of the end of the national delegates conferences, President Moi indicated clearly that he wants to be succeeded by Uhuru Kenyatta. This did not please Raila Odinga and the older politicians that were in KANU.
Yeah.
The older politicians that were in KANU included the deputy, not deputy, but at the time we called them vice presidents.
Yeah.
There was Vice President George Saitoti.
Yeah.
Then there were a number of ministers
Yeah.
that included the Minister for Environment, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Minister for National Heritage, William Olentimama. There was the Minister for, of course, the Regional Resources, Abdul Awiti, and the team that came with Raila, and then Raila Odinga himself as Minister for roads, for energy. Yeah. He also wasn't happy with that. And then there was one hesitant, on and off, happy and unhappy minister. That's the Minister for Transport and Communications, Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. It wasn't decided where to belong, whether he should go to this older group or remain with Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, he remained with Uhuru Kenyatta eventually and became vice president when George Saitoti was fired. And that now ends us in October when, in July, the events obviously included resignations, unhappiness within the KANU ranks. They had not resigned. But towards the end of the month, George Saitoti was relieved of his role as vice president, and Musalia Mudavadi was appointed. Now, Raila and team hung on, and I remember one thing, he came from one of the KANU NDCs that were held at KICC. President Moi preferred, for whatever reason, that all the party affairs really took place at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. So very elaborate events, and then they'll step out of the conference center and address the press sometimes, or watch a choir, Kenyatta University choir or Muungano choir. Very interesting. But then there was a second layer of political activity, and the second layer was outside the fence, on the City Hall side. And these were the supporters of Raila Odinga. So he'd leave there and go to the City Hall side, and he pronounced himself one time and said, Nyayo akicheza, Rainbow itakuwa chama. Nyayo ikicheza, Rainbow itakuwa chama. Let me just explain where Rainbow comes from.
Yes.
Rainbow was actually what Raila was pushing for within KANU, that let's combine the old and the new in this succession matrix for the succession of President Moi. So that it's a rainbow of both sides. Because what President Moi did, he looked like he was sweeping the slate clean by introducing new leaders.
Yes.
And you know, even the leaders that were around Uhuru Kenyatta were relatively young compared to the Raila team. And there were actually, there are not many, there were two. William Ruto, the organizing secretary of KANU, and Julius Sonkuli, the Minister for Interior. So these were age mates, and this is the team that looked like Moi favored, and this is why Raila came and said, no, we want a rainbow. Combine the old and combine the new. So Nyayo akicheza, Rainbow itakuwa chama. And he took that. Later on in October, the 14th of October 2002, later in the year, now the fallout proper happened, because actually it was 13th. The 14th was the next day. It was a Monday. But on Sunday, we started seeing resignations. And, you know, cabinet secretaries, cabinet ministers at the time were resigning. You had William Ntimama resigning, Raila resigning, And then they went to Serena Hotel. It was the base of their operations.
Yes.
Now for both the incoming, the people coming out of KANU and the people coming from the opposition.
Yeah.
From the opposition was NAK, National Alliance of Kenya, which combined Mwai Kibaki's DP, Charity Ngilu's NPK, National Party of Kenya, and Wamalwa Kijana's Ford Kenya. These were the three parties that were in the NAK coalition. So Raila comes with LDP, Liberal Democratic Party. In there was Kalonzo Musyoka, in there was Saitoti, and a host of other people. And of course, on the sidelines, there was Ford people with the former cabinet secretary at the time, former minister, I keep mixing this, Nyachai, Simon Nyachai. So in Serena, this is where the plans for the next direction was going. And LDP started calling itself Liberal Democratic Party, in brackets, Rainbow. So it took the rainbow from the KANU struggles into the new party. And I remember 13th of October 2002 was very anxious because some of the cabinet ministers were not resigning. Kalonzo Musyoka held it to the very last minute. Yeah. And we asked Raila because Orwa Ojode, who was an assistant minister, and Peter Odoyo, who was an assistant minister, both from Nyanza, had not resigned as well. And we asked him that, but what's happening? Yeah. Peter Odoyo and Orwa Ojode have not resigned. Yeah. And he told us, take it from me, they have resigned. Yeah. Of course, Odoyo and later wrote a short statement to resign. Yeah. So the last person to walk out was Kalonzo Musyoka, and he did it the next day, right before the team crossed to Uhuru Park for the major rally that birthed the National Rainbow Coalition in 2002. What else did Raila do that day? He ended his relationship with President Daniel Arap Moi and began his relationship with Mwai Kibaki. You remember he famously said, Kibaki Tosha. Yeah. That was in the afternoon of October 14th, 2002 at Uhuru Park.
Yeah. What great reflections and what a moment for history. Like you say, we started to see this spirit of cooperation. Later evolved to handshakes, to broad-based, to the different iterations that it has taken over that time. Franklin, but for you, have these moves been a surprise? I was in a different place at the time. I was nowhere near the newsroom. I was probably getting ready for the newsroom but I remember in university, many of us were surprised by Raila Amolo's move into KANU and thinking, how could this happen? This was a man who was detained under President Moi's regime and administration. But was he a man who was known for making decisions like that surprised people? Were you yourself surprised by some of the political moves that he made?
First, I want to appreciate Linus for that narration. That was mouthful. Yes. And it's all factual.
Thank you.
I will take it up from where he ended. Soon after Uhuru Park, on the issue of Kibaki Tosha. By that time, I had come back from a mission overseas. I was Kenya's High Commissioner to Australia. So I had come back. And I had no idea whatsoever of going into politics. I was out in Kericho there. Then one afternoon, himself, Raila Odinga, put a call to me. And after the announcement at Uhuru Park, I want to see you tomorrow in Nairobi. So I came. I traveled into Nairobi and found him at the Novo Hotel. And he was sitting there with Mwai Kibaki, the late Mwai Kibaki. One, I hadn't come close to Mwai Kibaki on politics, but of course, I was working in State House when he was the vice president. So I knew him that much. Then the two of them said, we want you. And then I asked, what do you want me to do? They said, we have now launched NARC, That is
National Rainbow Coalition.
National Rainbow Coalition. Yeah. And we want you to stand in for us. We want you to be our regional representative for South Rift. And I looked at them and I said, why do you think I will move anybody in that region?
Yeah.
Raila looked at me and said, I know you. The reason why he said you knew me is because I was already a member of Liberal Democratic Party.
Yes.
And I was the chair of Liberal Democratic Party, Kericho district then. And I think he had seen me. He had seen how I was mobilizing the membership into LDP. And actually we had done so because along with us were Isaac Gruto, Lorna Laboso, they were with us. On the other side was Kibruto Kirwa. There's another gentleman who became assistant minister at one time. But those were the people who were then therefore the figureheads of Liberal Democratic Party in the various zones of Rift Valley. But Raila was determined and he told me, I know you and I know your place. And I will stand with you. I will work with you. And I'm placing to work with you the Honorable William Olentemama. That's how you saw me several times walking around those sides of Rift Valley with Olentemama. It's because of the instructions from Raila Odinga after having deliberated together and agreed with Mwai Kibaki that this man, we want him for that purpose. Isaac Gruto was a candidate. I wasn't a candidate. Isaac Gruto was a candidate, Chebalungu.
Yeah.
Lorna was a candidate, those sides of Sotik. Yes. And we had so many civic seats which were being contested on the LDP ticket.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this man, Raila, he is described as an enigma. And I think it is really, because a day would not go without him calling, checking, have you gone to so-and-so? Have you gone to this region? So he was a man hands-on in terms of his
management
and his commitment. Yeah, in terms of all that. He had some grassroots connections that I have not seen a leader today with such grassroots connection, where you find a border guy there said, oh, yesterday I talked with Raila, and then another one, another Mama Boga there, oh, Raila called me yesterday. I discussed with Baba this way, that way. That was Raila. And he continued that way, by the way, even until recently, even before he got sick.
Yeah.
So he was a man who was hands-on when it came to pushing an idea. Okay, somebody has said, I think it was Gituko, who said he was a movement.
Yeah.
I want to really confirm, indeed, he was a movement. You would not move if Raila was not behind you. So that nominations in the whole of Nyanza, for example, that was the election. That was the national election.
Yeah.
So long as you have been nominated into that party headed by Raila Odinga, you are a member of parliament, you are a councillor those days, before they became the MCAs and all that. So he was a man who was very profuse in his checking of what's going on in the various regions of the country. He wasn't relying on that big man there.
Right.
He had to go to the small man. But would not be telling the big man that I have talked to the small man. He would not do that.
Right.
He would just say it in, he mumbles, So I mean, just understand. Yeah. So that is the way I saw the man. And we continued with him until one time he came to the office at the Orange House up here. And he said, Franklin, from today, you are the chairman of the National Election Board of the party. I looked at him and I said, Musei, are you sure? Remember, I've told you, he told me I would be looking after South Rift.
Right.
And I asked him almost the same question here now. Are you sure? He said, I know your capabilities. I know your capacity, but I am behind you. And indeed he was all the time checking on me. asking me the difficulties I was facing, the challenges, and he would follow on. Maybe I can end it there.
Okay, and we'll come back, and there's definitely more reflections.
National election,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about that. Senator.
My leader here has just reminded me, when you were in the elections board, you remember Simbarati was supposed to have been kicked out?
Yes.
I went and begged him. I said, please, save this guy.
Yeah.
If you can. He's not so bad. Allow him to, and of course,
contest.
Let him contest, and eventually won. Yvonne, I think for me, where historians and Kenyans would most probably want to spend their time is that there was Raila the Luo, politician, which everybody understood and read him to be that. And yet in my reality is that I came later on to find out that Raila was actually one of the most detribalized Kenyans. He didn't care which tribe you came with. He had so many members of the Kikuyu community. He had so many people from the coast. And he was coming out as this person who's going to stand up for the things that many Kenyans knew about him. But for me, I think the most important one is that at the point when Raila began to discuss his politics and present it to Kenyans, I think it's very few of us, and you were there, who actually understood that Raila is setting up whether he is going to be a social democrat, which is what he always stood up for, basically social public service, provision of reprieve for poor people, making sure that Kenyans are treated fairly, whether it was in education, health, and all these things. And yet, at the same time, as Raila was struggling with him explaining to us to understand what this social democracy thing was, I personally then understood that Raila was actually talking about the very basic things that Kenyans wanted. Free education. I mean, I remember sitting through some of the meetings which we had. Of course, once or twice I sat where President Kibaki was sitting. And the issues were very passionate. And like Mheshimiwa Bet has said, I don't remember a single day that Raila came to a meeting and he had to ask for notes. The talking points were there.
Yeah.
When we were going into South Sudan, as I'm saying, the story is so big. You know what many Kenyans may not know is that South Sudan was not supposed to have independence. Why? Because by the time John Garang died, there was a discussion going on as whether South Sudan should actually remain part of the bigger Sudan or whether the South Sudanese should secede. And that singular call, with the intervention of President Kibaki, when we were sitting in the president's office, Raila asked the president, he said, do you really think the South Sudanese don't want to be independent? Kibaki said, no, make the call. And Raila said, we are going to South Sudan and we are going to make South Sudan independent. That's when I begin to see Raila making decisions, and those decisions bore fruits. And the other issue, Yvonne, that was very important, because Franklin Bet is young, he's been in State House and all that. Raila never really hated you. You would disagree with them. That is my experience.
Yes,
Raila
correct.
would really never, I hate him, let's get rid of him. He would disagree with you for about a week. On the third week, he would call you. You see, like when I lost my nomination on ODM and I was struggling with PDP, Raila called me and said, no, we don't want you to leave ODM, please stay around and everything. And as he's making those arguments, you had already quarreled with him and Fidel 2 days before.
Yeah.
But he talked to me like there was no issue, there were no questions. And finally, I think it is also important that some of these things are brought out in public. And I would like Kenyans to know the decision, because I asked Raila this question, and I'm sure you did, and I'm sure you did. Why did you support Kibaki and not Yashai? And I'm sure you'll give me that answer, and I'm sure you will give me that answer. When I asked Raila that question, he said, Mzee Simeon was a very good man. He was very strong. He was presenting himself sincerely as a presidential candidate that we loved. And also, Mzee Simeon Yeshai was presenting, and I'm sure Franklin Bet would agree with me, that Yeshai was presenting the the unobvious. Nyachai was going to come in as a candidate from the minority communities. So by the time Raila flipped and said Kibaki tosha, Raila's comment when I talked to him, he said the numbers were not adding up. So one of the things that I've actually come to realize, and I saw this happening as we kept on moving our political lives, Raila was always on the spot with data. There's no election Raila would go to or engage in terms of which direction are we going to take, who are we going to support. He was always using data. And for me, that is one of the things that made him very successful. He knew which areas were strong. Like now we are having by-elections in Malaba. By now, Raila would have said, no, Malaba pick so-and-so. If it's Panyako, he's our friend, he's our candidate, he's the sort of person we want. And that was Raila. But most other politicians usually will keep quiet about their choices and the people who they would want to run for office.
All right, Linus.
Let me just, because he's said
what
something
did he tell you about Nyachai?
What, yes, and this is very interesting because our answers, this is corroboration.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what he told Senator is exactly what he told me as well.
Yes.
I asked him the question of Raila Tosha. Sorry,
Kibaki
Tosha.
Yes.
I asked him about that, both on record and off record. Off record about 3 months after they took office. And I went to his office. He was sitting in Transcom House as the Minister for Roads and Transport. And I asked him, how did you arrive at Kibaki Tosha?
Yes.
Because the one thing that we established immediately was Simon Nyachai was extremely angry. Yeah. He was very upset after the Uhuru Park declaration.
Tosha, yes.
Because that was not in the script.
Yes.
I also asked George Saitoti, who was equally completely livid about the pronouncement of Kibaki Tosha. Was it in the script? And George Saitoti told me, no, it was in the script. And both of them, especially Saitoti and Nyachai, felt shortchanged at Uhuru Park.
Yes.
So I sat with Raila Odinga and asked him, why did you do Kibaki Tosha? And your colleagues say it was in the script. He told me 2 reasons. He said, these people, and he was calling them my colleagues, he said these people did not understand, were underestimating Nyayo. He always called Moi Nyayo.
Yes.
He never called him Moi. He called him Nyayo. Then he told me, these people, my colleagues, were underrating Nyayo. Had we left Uhuru Park,
without
divided yes.
going out to negotiate,
we were done.
He said Moi was going to enter into those negotiations and divide them and get something out of it. So for him, he was looking at the election, which was only 3 months away, and said, you have to, and then the second thing he said was, look at the energy that was in Uhuru Park. How do you bring so many people, over 500,000 people gathered there, and then you send them home with nothing?
With nothing, yes.
He said he needed to give them a message that they needed to take home. The third thing he told me, he said, the moment the crowd burst, yote yawezekana bila Moi. By the way, I remember it started in a small section of the crowd. About 5 to 10 young men just started clapping and yote yawezekana. You know, that's how it started. And then it grew like a fire, running right through this crowd. And remember, Uhuru Park had at least 500,000 people in my estimation. They were all over. And the whole crowd burst, yote yawezekana bila Moi. And so Raila told me those 3 things. He could not have left Uhuru Park
to go back for negotiations and then come back again.
And he said the message was going to grow weak. Yes. So he said, Kibaki Tosha. Then he told me real politics. What was at stake? Voting blocks. Yeah. Despite his belief in ideological politics, Mwai Kibaki, just like Uhuru Kenyatta, Kanu's candidate, were coming from Mount Kenya. Yes. And he said the first thing you do is to split the biggest block. You cannot hand over Mount Kenya to President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. He'll convert it into something, a machine that will completely defeat you in the elections. So that's accurate. He was looking at numbers. He was looking at the counter plan. And because, by the way, if you look at it, President Moi had one more chance at the opposition. That election could even have gone another direction. Because I will need to mention here that after that, there was a semblance of negotiations.
Yes.
That now, okay, we have Kibaki Tosha, but let's negotiate who the candidate will be.
Right.
So the talks went, I don't know whether by this time you were in Franklin, but the talks went to Hilton Hotel.
Yeah.
And then the talks came back to Intercontinental Hotel. The Intercontinental Hotel talks were not attended by Simeon Nyachai. He was very upset, and he said he'll not turn up, and he'll go alone. And the one thing Raila always did, I don't know whether he organized it, maybe you, the two of you are politicians, you will tell us, whether he organized these crowds or they just out of their passion follow him to where he is. Because in all his meetings, whether it's the national meetings of KANU in KICC or the National Rainbow Coalition negotiations in Hilton or National Rainbow Coalition negotiations in Intercontinental, there was always a massive crowd of pro-Raila people who would put some on you verbally from outside, good songs. And you, I don't know whether you remember what the song was. It was a gospel tune by going it alone as a Ford people candidate. So he smartly always negotiated in the rooms, but also piled pressure outside. And the one thing that I've also learned across time was he wasn't a strong boardroom negotiator. No, he wasn't. Boardroom negotiations were not his strength. But using a public forum and public pressure, that is where he scored his points. He thrived in applying pressure through the public. And I remember one of his confidants who was very upset with the fact that he took the military Kenya Air Force Puma to Sagana at the height of the post-election violence to talk with Mwai Kibaki. There are insiders that were really upset with that. They're saying, why are you giving away that?
He deserves.
Yes, and one of them just added that, the problem with Tinga, they called him Tinga, was if he's left alone.
That was the slogan for LDP.
Yes, that was,
exactly. Actually, it was the trademark, for LDP. It was a Tinga.
So he took it as it became his nickname. And they said, no, you can't trust him in the room alone. With these people. They'll overrun him because he's not a strong negotiator. And I think it is accurate because there's something, and I think Honorable Onyonka had earlier spoken about the personality of Raila Odinga. He's actually a soft person. He was actually a soft person at heart. He's not a table-banging deal maker. He's soft. He comes across almost as weak in negotiations, but he used his supporters to apply pressure, and it worked quite well for him.
And his public persona. Just, I want you to hold a little bit on that, Franklin Brett, because I want to hear the continuation of this story and your reflections of that moment. But I want to show you some pictures live now from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And this is the team that has been mandated by President William Ruto to travel to India to accompany Raila Odinga on his return to the country. And that is, if you recall, the minority leader, Junet Mohammed, majority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah. We also know that cabinet secretaries, that's Kipchumba Murkomen, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi is also among those that are accompanying this journey. Cabinet Secretary Ali Hassan Joho as well. I believe Opiyo Wandayi also, Cabinet Secretary for Energy, is in this delegation, as well as the Secretary General of the party. That's Edwin Sifuna, as well as members of the family who will also be on this trip. They're already live at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Lounge, preparing for this journey that takes place today to India, following the news that broke earlier this morning of the passing of ODM party leader Raila Odinga and former Prime Minister of the Republic as well. You can see there PS Caroline Karugu, amongst other leaders that we see here. Also PS in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Oma Oluga is also present here. There he is, as well as a number of other leaders. And as you can see from that, many still coming to terms with the news of what has just transpired. And when I say what has just transpired, I know it is now almost 4 o'clock, but it does feel like this news broke just a few moments ago. From the moment that this news became known to the declaration, of course, there are also noted